Okay, so we left off 4 or 5 lines from the bottom on ADB, Payamid Bays. Hopefully we'll try to make up a little ground today. Sorry, we're starting a little bit later. So we just ended off asking a contradiction. Does a cedar tree replant itself when you cut the roots off or not? And we ended up saying, well, it depends. We're talking about there's many different types of cedar trees. So some of them are going to replant themselves and some of them are not. You know, a lot of these names, I'm not familiar with all these cedar tree names, so you could help me out. So we said there's Asara Mina Erazim, 10 kinds of cedar tree. Shinamar, as the verse states in Yeshaya, Etin b'midbar erez shita v'hadas v'eitz shaman asim barava v'rosh tidhar usa'asher yachta. So erez, arza. So erez is cedar tree. Shita is a tornisa. So it's a fine kind of tree. Rashbam says whatever fine means. Pine. Okay, it's a pine. Tornisa is a hadas. So tornisa is a hadas tree. That's a willow tree. Asa. Sorry, the myrtle tree. Thank you. Tornisa hadas. Asa is eights. Okay. No, sorry. Erez arza. Shita tornisa. Hadas asa. So 8 shaman is a farsama, which is like farsamon. What's farsamon in English? Farsamon is balsam. Okay. Barosh is barti. It's a barti kind of tree. Bartwood. Tidhar is shaga. So some kind of a fir tree. The tashur is shurvina. And the tashur tree is a shurvina. Rasham says he has no explanation for it. What is that?
It's a shurvina.
It's a shurvina, exactly. So honey shiva, that's only 7 of it. What about the other 3? Kiasravimi, Amar Hosipin Alayan, Alonim, Almonim, Almogim. Okay, 3 more cedar trees. So Alonim, Almonim, Almogim. Alonim are butni, the butni trees, palm trees, elm trees. Almonim, blute. Rashbam says Kishna, oak trees. Okay, and blute are almogim. Sorry, that one. It's like alonim are butni, almonim are blute, and almogim are ksisa. So there's it's a tree that grows in the ocean, very expensive, and it's called the coral. Oh, like a coral. Like coral trees. Yeah, that makes sense. Yikid Amri, some say no, the following 3 are added. Aronim, Armonim, Almogim. What are those? Aronim are are. What is that? Laurel. Armonim are dulvi. Rashbam said they're Kishnir. Chestnut. Wonderful last name, Kushnir. Kushnir has to do with chestnut. Kushnir, I don't know. And Almogim are Kstisa. And Almogim are coral again. Okay. Those are the 10 kinds of cedar trees. Yeah. Oh, good morning, Jared. New Mishnah. Hey, Aleph, Amud Aleph, 81A. 81A1. 81-1A, right? A1, okay. Back to buying trees and not being explicit about exactly what you meant. You bought 2 trees. Now we had the difference in 2 trees and 3 trees back in the day, right? So you buy 2 trees. You've not acquired the land with those trees. You've only acquired the trees. Rabbi Meir Omer Kanakarka. Rabbi Meir says you have acquired the land. Seems to be what they're arguing about is what's considered like a field of trees. So if 1 tree, everyone agrees it's just a tree. You're just buying 1 tree. Once you buy more than 1 already, you want a field of trees, not just the trees. You want to have the land under it. You want to have other things with it. And there's a machlokas. Is it 2 or is it 3? The Rashbam understands from earlier that this gets into our ayin tov, ayin ra conversation. When you sell things, you're selling things with a singy eye or a good eye. Many reject them, and many say no, has nothing to do with that. Even if you hold like Rabbi Akiva, the ayin tov, you sell ayin tov, you still won't acquire the land here because land is more expensive than the trees. So it's a whole different machlokes. It's just when you buy trees, does land come along with it or not? We have to see, like, are you trying to buy the land with it? Land in general is more expensive. And once you buy 3 trees, we see you're buying a field of trees, not just buying the trees itself. Okay. So now what's the difference if land comes with it or not? So higdilu, your trees that you just bought have grown and they're spreading over the seller's area. So lo yishba, the seller cannot go and trim down your trees. So you just bought trees with no land, but now your trees are growing over into your other areas of the seller. The seller cannot go and trim the trees because basically the buyer said, listen, I didn't buy any fields from you. I didn't buy any land from you. So therefore, just because it's damaging your land, you have to let my tree grow. I didn't buy any land with it. So therefore, if this tree is growing, you don't have a right to trim it down. You have to let it grow.
Understand the concept. Planting a tree without the land, the root, dirt right around it.
Right. I guess if you need to eat for a few weeks, buy a tree to get the apples off the tree or something. Yeah, it is interesting. Meaning even if for the seller, it's not good from all the shade. It's covering over his part that needs to be irrigated. But since the owner of the land has no field with his tree, so then there's sort of like a unspoken deal over here that the tree is allowed to grow as much as it needs to grow, for that tree to be productive. That was part of the original deal, in between the lines. Okay, so first nafkamina, first difference is if your tree grows a lot and it shades over the seller's area, even blocking sunlight from coming into a place that needs to be irrigated, the seller still cannot touch your tree because this is what the tree needs, and the guy has no land that comes along with the tree. All he has is the tree. So it's sort of like an unspoken agreement, a non-spoken agreement here that you have to let my tree grow as much as it needs. Okay. Now the ha'olim in a geza shalom. So whatever grows from the trunk of the tree will belong to the owner of the tree. Umina shorashim, whatever's going to grow from the roots of the tree, that's going to belong to the balakarka. So 2 differences. If you only own the tree, so then the seller cannot trim it down, and whatever grows from the trunk is yours. But if it grows from the roots, it'll belong to the owner of the land. The imesu. Now, what happens if the tree dies? Ein lo karka. So if that area replants a new tree, it doesn't belong to you. You only own this tree. So imesu, if the tree dies, ein lo karka. You don't own the land, so you can't go plant another tree in its place. Okay. Now, the opposite, in contrast, kana shlosha. If you buy 3 trees, kana karka, you buy the land along with it. Higdilu yishba. Now that you have land for the trees, so then if it goes and shades over the area of the seller, then the seller is allowed to trim it down. The ha'olam in a geza, if it grows from the roots of the tree, umin sharashim, no matter what grows from the tree, it's yours because you own the land to it. The mesu yesh lo karka, if the tree dies, you are allowed to go and replant in its place. Yeah. Okay, now, it's not Hassam. The Mishnah tells us we're going to have a long discussion now about the mitzvah of Bikurim, which, no coincidence, this week's Parsha. Right? This week's Parsha. So we're going to learn all about the beginning of this week's Parsha. And then when it comes to Pesach Seder and you're reading about the Bikurim, you'll have more of an insight. So we'll see how much we can get out of Bikurim. Yeah, Tanan Hassam. The Mishnah by Bikurim. So now why is Bikurim coming? Why is it relevant here? Because we just had a machlokas in the Mishnah. Do you acquire land with the trees or not? So by Bikurim, it could be that's also going to be a relevant factor. Are you buying things? Are you just, if you just buy a few fruits, you bring those, or you have to grow it and then bring it? So let's see. Tanan Hasam, we learned over there in Bikurim. Hakonish Neilanos, you buy 2 trees. This Sok Shal Chavero. So same thing, I'm buying 2 trees for my friend. Maybe the Eino Korah. I bring the Bikurim, but I don't read the special parsha of Bikurim. We're going to see at the top of Pei Beis Amud Aleph why that's true. Why don't you read also? But you are allowed to bring the Bikurim. You have a mitzvah to bring the Bikurim, but you don't read the special 5 Sukkim declaration that one usually recites when he brings Bikurim offering. Rav Meir Omer, maybe Vikora. Of course, you bring and you read. Why not? Because according to Rav Meir, when you buy 2 trees, you also bought the land under it, right? So there's no difference between 2 trees, 3 trees, 4 trees. For him, it's a regular parsha of Bikurim. So that is the Mishnah over there. Amar Yehuda, he's going to say that something different. Amar Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Mechayev Hayar Rav Meir, Af Belokeach Peros Min Hashuk. Rav Yehuda says that Mishnah is not necessarily relevant to us because he understands Rav Meir that even if you buy fruits, Peros Ha'ilan, add in from the shuk, so you don't grow it yourself. You just go to the shuk, you go to the marketplace, you buy yourself 5 apples. He says you still have to bring those 5 apples to the Beis Hamikdash. So the Mishnah in Bikurim we thought was relevant to our Mishnah because they're both discussing buying trees, and it sounds like you acquire the land under the trees. That's what we originally thought. But it says Rabbi Shmuel that according to Rav Meir, he says even if you buy just fruits in the marketplace, nothing to do with trees and the land under the trees. You buy 5 apples, you have a full parsha of Bikurim. So the Gemara is going to jump on that. Mimai. How do you know that? How do you know that? Rav Meir just said in the Mishnah over there that in the case where you buy 2 trees, maybe Vikora. Where do you see that he also is so lenient that even a few apples from the marketplace also there's a mitzvah Bikurim stated over there? So it says, what do you mean? There's a Mishnah Yisera. There's an extra Mishnah. So what does that mean? Well, Michti, Kollel the Yesh Lo Karka. Our Mishnah in Bava Batra already taught us when you buy 2 trees, you acquire the land under it. So when we got to Bikurim, and the Mishnah said that when you buy 2 trees, the first opinion said you bring Bikurim, but you don't recite anything. There is no reason for Rav Meir to state his opinion. We know your opinion already. You're the old opinion of when you buy 2 trees, that the land comes with it. So since he still stated that, it must be it's a Mishnah Yisera. So Michti Tanale the Yesh Lo Karka Pshita the Mevi Vikora. Of course, if you have the land under the trees, of course you bring Bikurim. There's no novelty in that. So it must be when Rav Meir here said in this Mishnah, maybe Vikora, he must be referring to Ela Shmamina Mechai Rav Meir Af Belokeach Peros Min Hashuk. It must be referring to a case where he bought the fruits from the marketplace, and that's why. And that's what he was talking about. So even though it's interesting, the first opinion was talking specifically about buying 2 trees, and that first opinion stated maybe the Eino Korah, you bring Bikurim, but you do not recite a special parsha Bikurim. Rav Meir Omer, maybe the Korah is talking about a separate case. It's talking not only when you buy 2 trees. That's obvious already. We know that from Bava Batra, because according to me, Rav Meir, I own the land under the trees. Rav Meir says maybe the Korah is even in a case where I buy fruits from a tree from the marketplace. That's what Rav Meir was talking about. So 2 opinions: is this Mishnah directly related to us, or it's really an added novelty by Bikurim, not directly related to us, but it's stemming from our Mishnah in Bava Batra. Okay. So says the Gemara. Hold on. I mean, it's very nice. You brought me a nice Mishnah of Rav Meir, but the problem is there are psukim in this week's parsha that seem to fly in the face of your halacha. What are those psukim? The haksiv asher tavi me'artzecha. You have to bring bikurim from your land, not from fruits you bought from the marketplace. Yeah, hahu le'me'utei chutz la'aretz. That was just coming to exclude outside of Eretz Yisrael. That's all it's saying. You just can't bring bikurim your land as opposed to land outside of Israel. But it wasn't coming to exclude growing it versus buying it. Just saying it has to be from Eretz Yisrael It can't be from any other country. Okay, but but it means it's also your land. So really your ground. You have to bring it from your ground. So lemeute ad masakum, that just means your, as opposed to the land of a non-Jew. It has to be coming from the land of a Jew, but it's not coming to exclude buying versus growing. It's coming to exclude fruit that grew in the land of a non-Jew. That fruit is also excluded from bikurim. I have haksiv. The person is saying, "Asher nasatoli." It's the food that Yashem, you gave me, meaning I planted and you let it grow. You helped it grow. Says the Gemara, yeah, gave me just means the ahabisli zuzi bezavni behu. You gave it to me through the means of acquisition. You let me go and give money and then acquire the fruits. So all of these three psukim could be answered, and they're not going to be a contradiction to this opinion of Rav Meir brought down by Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Okay. Masiv Rabba has a kasha. Hakona ilan echad b'sok shel chavero. I buy one tree, only one tree, from my friend. Maybe the eino koreh. I bring bikurim, but I don't recite the special parsha. Lefi shelo kana karka. Why? Because I didn't acquire any land. Divrei Rav Meir. Divrei Rav Meir. We have an explicit brisa now that says the reason why I bring and I don't recite is because lefi shelo kana karka. Divrei Rav Meir. Sounds like we need, according to Rav Meir, that the reason why you do bring bikurim is because you have karka. You bring and you recite. But it seems from here that, according to Rav Meir, you really do need to have a tree that grows from the land, and buying it from the shuk is not going to work. It has to grow. Now, this tree grew. You just didn't buy the land under it. That's why you don't recite bikurim. But it sounds like you have to have a tree, and just buying from the marketplace is not going to suffice. That the Gemara says tiyufta. That's a tiyufta, and then the Rashbam points out, and all these three psukim that Rav Meir just explained, we're gonna have to explain them differently, and you have to look in bikurim to see how it explains them differently, because now all those psukim are referring to land and ground. It needs to be things that are growing from the ground. It's not coming necessarily to exclude, chutz la'aretz, or it's coming to exclude, the land of a non-Jew. Those might be also excluded. But according to Rav Meir now, everyone agrees that you need to have things that grow from the ground. It sounds like buying from the shuk is not going to be an option. Okay. Amar le Reb Shimon ben El Yakim le Rabbi Lazar. So Reb Shimon one day asked Rabbi Lazar the following question, turning the page. Mai taima de Rav Meir be'ilan echad, u mai taima de Rabbanan b'shnei ilanos. We have this interesting thing in bikurim. Anybody who doesn't have the land under the tree has a mitzvah bikurim, but does not recite the special 5 psukim that you do when you come to the Kohen and you give him a basket full of fruits. So this Rabbi Yakim, he asked Rabbi Lazar, what's the reason for that? Maybe if you're bringing fruits from a tree, you can recite the parsha of bikurim. What's this split? I have a mitzvah to bring bikurim, but I don't have a mitzvah to recite the parsha. Why? So he answered him. Sounds like he asked him in public in the Beis Medrash. So he responds to him, Amar lo, davar sharishonim lo amru botam tishalani Beis Medrash kidei levaysheni. Something which earlier rabbis didn't give a reason to and didn't give a source to. You're asking me in public in the Beis Medrash just in order to embarrass me? Meaning you asked me a question which no one ever spoke about. No one gave a reason for this. And you want me to now answer? How am I supposed to know the answer? No one before me ever answered this question. So it sounds like you're just doing this to embarrass me. That was his response. Yeah. Rabba doesn't understand. Like, what was the problem? Mai kusha. I have a simple answer. Rabba says, what was so embarrassing about this? It's very easy. Dilma Rav Meir be'ilan echad sefukim esafki lever rabbanim b'shnei ilanos sefukim esafkilu. Maybe they're in doubt if you actually have acquired the land under the trees or not. They don't know. So since they don't know if you've acquired the land under the tree, so they're in doubt about it. So since you're in doubt about it, so then if you actually acquired land, so therefore you don't recite the Parsha of Bikurim. Meaning it would seem like that the full Parsha of Bikurim is only recited if you actually have the land under the trees. And the reason why here you don't recite Bikurim, you don't recite the Parsha, is because we're not sure. When you buy one tree or two trees, we're just not sure if you've also acquired the land. Since we're not sure if you've acquired the land, we can't remove it out of the hands of the seller. Correct. Correct. Yeah, you're right. The Rashbam says, it says, Asher tabi ma'artzecha. Right, you have to bring it from your land. Yeah. I mean, when you recite, it says that the food you brought from your land. So maybe if it's not from your land, maybe you shouldn't bring it either. So that we're saying, well, we're not sure if it's from your land. It sounds like when you recite your recitations for the Kohen, you said the fruit that I brought, I should tell you my arts, they have to bring the food from your land. But when you buy one tree or two trees, we're not sure if you bought the land or not. You bought the tree, but there might be a special, we might need you to have to bought the tree from the land. So Rab is saying this is very easy. We're just not sure if you bought land or not. So when it comes to a sale, so if you're not sure if you've acquired the land or not, you can't go take the land and remove it from the seller. We always leave the money where it is unless you bring a proof. But by Bikurim, since we're not sure, so you still have a mitzvah to bring Bikurim. However, you won't recite that, you won't recite the special recitation. Yeah. Okay.
They would just recite the Bikurim, is that it?
They would not recite the Psukim.
If they did own land, you would recite.
So the truth is, it's interesting. Why we don't recite the Psukim is going to be on the top of Pei Beis Amud Aleph. It sounds like here we were saying it has to be brought from your land. If it's not your land, then don't bring it at all. That was really the question. My time, really, the way the Rashbam explains, was really a question of you shouldn't bring it at all. Since it's not me'artzecha, you shouldn't bring it. To that we answer, we're not sure if it's your land or not. So you still bring it. Why don't you recite? That's going to be in an Amud for now.
What you would recite would be those specific.
Yeah, that was what you recite. What you recite is in the beginning of Devarim. This pasuk is just telling you, to take the first of all the fruits of your land, asher tavi ma'artzecha, that you're going to bring from your land. So the Gemara asked, my time under Rav Meir, by one tree, my time under Rabbanan by two trees. If it's not your land, you shouldn't be bringing it at all. Says the Gemara, well, we're not sure if it's your land or not. So if it's not sure, when it comes to a mitzvah bikurim, you bring it anyways. When it comes to a sale, so then you leave the land by the seller until you have a proof that it belongs to you. Yeah, good. Thank you for clarifying. Now, why we don't read is going to have to wait until Pei Beis Amud Aleph. So says the Gemara, really, you're not sure? The Hakatani, we had that Bryce on the bottom of the previous Amud that said, Lefi shelo kana karka, divrei Rav Meir. It says explicitly, Lefi shelo kana karka, divrei Rav Meir. The reason when you buy one tree, the reason why you bring it and you don't recite is Lefi shelo kana karka. So you see clearly that even when you buy one tree, you still bring the bikurim. Lefi shelo kana karka, I guess that's why you don't recite, but you still bring it. So what do you mean you're not sure? It's explicitly in the Brisa that when you buy one tree, you bring bikurim. So there's nothing to be unsure about. Yeah. So says the Gemara, no. Ema Shema lo kana karka. The Brisa wasn't saying explicitly, even though the words say explicitly, you didn't acquire land. We're saying what it means is it could be you didn't acquire the land. With Fisha lo kana karka is really Shema lo kana karka. But in the event that you did acquire the land under the tree, so then you would bring that to, therefore you would bring the bikurim to the Beis Hamikdash. Once again, we're holding now that there's a special requirement. It's only fruits from a land that you owned. If you buy a tree and you do not own the land under it, then you would not bring bikurim. If you buy a tree and you do own the land under it, you do bring bikurim. If you buy one tree for Rav Meir and two trees for the Rabbanan, right now we're saying that we're not sure if you own the land under it or not. Since we're not sure, so then you still have a mitzvah to bring bikurim. So says the Gemara, this is a big problem. If you have fruits that are in doubt, that you don't know what their status is, you can't just bring it to the Beis Hamikdash. Why not? So just here we're going to learn a lot of interesting other halachas that are coming to answer this question. Says the Gemara, "B'leichush did dilma la bikurim ninhu." 1 second. You're not sure if it's bikurim or not. You're not sure if you own the land, and therefore you're not sure if these fruits are bikurim. It's suffix bikurim. Your apple is a questionable bikurim status apple. Oh, there's a big problem. You're not allowed to bring unsanctified things into the temple courtyard. So, for instance, everyone's going to agree you can't take an animal that is a non-sanctified animal and walk it right into the temple courtyard. That is a perfect example of chulin li'azara. That's by korbanos. The Rashbam here has two opinions. Is this also biblical? This idea of not bringing fruits into the temple courtyard, is that like not bringing an animal into the temple courtyard or not? So first, the Rashbam brings a pasuk that would seem to imply that this is a biblical law, and then he says maybe it's not a biblical law, but it's a rabbinic law that they didn't want people treating the temple courtyard with less sanctity. They didn't want any non-holy things brought into the temple courtyard. So two opinions: is this a biblical rule or is it a rabbinic rule? But either way, it's a rule. Someone one time asked Rabbi Yashiv, so he was the great halakhic authority for many years. They asked him a question, and he said it's usher. He said deraisa or derabanan, biblically or biblically. He said, well, why does it matter? You're not allowed to do it. What do you like? He's asking practically, right? And I was asking like in Gemara to know. You're not allowed to do it. So the halacha is you can't bring chulin li'azara. Right? Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's true. I guess if that was your question, that would be different, right? So the answer is you can't bring it. You're not allowed to bring unsanctified food, mundane food into the azara. So how can you require this guy who has a questionable status apple to now bring that apple in a pretty basket to the Beis Hamikdash? So says the Gemara, okay, the makdish lahu. What happens? You were makdish lahu. Rashbam explains, you made a stipulation. If these are bikurim, so then great. And if they're not bikurim, I'm going to sanctify them. You can sanctify fruits, right? So now, when you sanctify fruits, what happens is you're going to use that money. It's called kedushas damim. Kedushas haguf means that the thing itself has sanctity. An animal, it has sanctity. That animal has to be brought as a sacrifice. But when you sanctify things that don't have kedushas haguf, like your coffee mug, if you sanctify that, don't do it. But if you do it, you're not going to obligate yourself the financial value of the coffee mug. So if you sanctify the apples, you're offering that money. You're podedza, right? You redeem this and you give that, $10, whatever, how expensive the apple is.
I didn't jump too far back, but is that why you would sell your pit? Earlier and sell the value of the pit?
Oh, maybe, yeah, correct.
Is that when we're
if you sanctify it, then you have to sell the value of it, right? What do you want? You want the guy in charge of English have to now travel 300 miles to your pit? No, you take the pit, you sanctify it. Now you sell the pit, and it'll be. I'm just thinking now. My kids went apple picking last Sunday, and they came back with a $17 bag full of apples, right? So that would be great for the Beis Hamikdash. I want to go and make that holy, right? I've just donated $17, right? If I were to do that, that's a substantial amount. So says the Gemara, no, it's not a problem. So once they're holy, so now either way you're good. If it's bikurim, you can bring it into temple courtyard, and if it's not bikurim, it anyways has kedusha. I can also bring it to the temple courtyard. So this is like one of these back and forth fun gemaras. Okay, the habayi michlinhu, but hold on, the Kohen has to eat it. So if the Kohen has to eat it and you're giving him the apple, he can't eat the apple. You have to redeem it and then give the money. So you're giving the apple to the Kohen to eat. So hold on, but he can't eat it. Says the Gemara, it's fine. To parakluhu, just redeem it. And once he redeemed it, then maybe then you can eat it, no problem. But hold on, maybe this whole apple wasn't bikurim in the first place. And what's going to happen now? A new problem. We know that when you take produce, you have to take off truma, which is called truma gedola. Truma is you give between 1/40th and 1/60th to the Kohen, and you have to give after that ma'aser rishon. Whatever is left over of that truma, you have to give 10%. And then on years 1, 2, 4, and 5, you bring ma'aser sheni up to the basic condition. You have to eat the fruits there. The Torah says why? In order to you should learn yiras Hashem, you should learn the fear of God. Interesting. On years 1, 2, 4, and 5, you bring your fruits, your ma'aser sheni, based in English. Why? To learn the fear of God. In fact, there was at one point they wanted to make all the school systems everywhere. They were going to make them all in Yerushalayim. Why? Tosfos explains earlier in Bava Batra, they want the kids to learn Yerushalayim, the fear of God. And being in Yerushalayim, and when they have the avodah with all the Kohanim, it'll imbue them with the awe of Hashem. And then after, you also have ma'aser ani. Years 3 and 6, you have to bring fruit up for the aniyim. So now, one second, you have this apple that's questionable. If it's bikurim, well, guess what? If it's not bikurim, then you have to make sure that it's not tevel, that it's not that you've separated truma. So it says the Gemara, who become mafkilahumi truma meiser. You haven't taken off truma and meiser. Says the Gemara, it's fine. So take it off. Good. It's a case where you took off truma and meiser in the event that it's not going to be bikurim. I took off from this group of apples truma and meiser. I took off 1/40th and then I took off another 10%. So that's no problem. Says the Gemara, okay, but hold on. Not all of these things you separate go to the Kohen. Bishlama truma gedola, the truma yahava the Kohen. Meiser sheni, even meiser sheni, nami yahava the Kohen. Meiser ani, maybe the Kohen's a poor person. Nami yahava the Kohen ani. The problem is meiser rishon. Meiser rishon goes to a Levi. So ela meiser rishon de Levihu. So l'ma'an yahivle. You're bringing this whole nice basket, and now you're going to. So who are you giving that to? So, says the Gemara, the Yahivle, the Kohen. Oh, I tricked you. No, really, you could give it to a Kohen. Who said you can give ma'aser rishon to a Kohen? Who ever heard such a thing? We're holding like the opinion of Rabbi Dovid ben Azariah. What did Rabbi Dovid ben Azariah say? Tanya, we're going to bryce a truma gedol of the Kohen. Truma goes to a Kohen. Ma'aser rishon lelevi div Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Dovid ben Azariah Omer. Ma'aser rishon, and now there's a machlokas whether you put the word afin or not. Either it's ma'aser rishon the Kohen or ma'aser rishon af the Kohen. Now this is a big dispute, but the Rashbam explains. So we'll go with him. I saw Tosfos argues, but I didn't have a chance to go through it. The Rashbam explains what happened. The times of Ezra, he brought up Jews from Babel to Eretz Yisrael. A lot of Leviim didn't go, and as a knas, as a penalty for those Leviim, he now established that the ma'aser rishon will be going to the Kohen. That's a punishment for them. That's the opinion of Rabbi Dovid ben Azariah. So he said that we're talking about after that punishment was established, and therefore, even ma'aser rishon goes to the Kohen. Okay. So says the Gemara now. Okay, now flip it the other way. The dilma bikurim ninhu. Oh, hold on. If this is really bikurim though, ubo kriya. So you have to read. You have to say the special parsha, right? So So if it's really bikurim, then you make sure to say the parsha. We explained the case is maybe the eno korah. You bring the bikurim and you don't read because we're not sure, right? You're bringing it because you're not sure what its status is. But in the event that it's bikurim, you have to read. The Torah says, read, read this parsha. Say, declare the following declaration. So how do you get out of that? So says the Gemara, not a problem. It's fun Gemaras, right? Kriya lo ma'akeves. The Torah says you have to make a declaration, but the declaration is not ma'akev. It's a good word for ma'akev. It's not, the bikurim is not contingent on you declaring the special high psukim declaration. Even though you don't declare it, you have still fulfilled the mitzvah of bikurim. It's called ma'akev, to not preventatory. I don't know what's a good English word. Not to prevent. It's critical. What's critical mean? Every mitzvah is critical, right? Hashem says, do it, you do it. It's critical. But what it means is that even if you didn't do it, it doesn't prevent you. That's what it means. Ma'akev is to prevent. It hasn't prevented you from fulfilling the mitzvah obligation of bikurim, right? If you don't eat matzah on Pesach, so that eating matzah on Pesach prevents you from fulfilling the mitzvah of eating matzah on Pesach. Making kiddush on Shabbos. If you don't make kiddush on Shabbos, so that act of not making kiddush prevents you from fulfilling the mitzvah of kiddush. So maybe you would have thought, when you read the Torah, you always have to think, I have a mitzvah to bring bikurim and make a declaration. So simply the Gemara understood that's part of bikurim. So if you bring your fruit and you don't make a declaration, you have not fulfilled your mitzvah bikurim. Why should it be different than anything else? The Torah says to do, so you do it. So you always have to know, is this detail essential to the mitzvah or is not essential to the mitzvah, right? So says the Gemara here, kriya lo ma'akeves. The declaration is not ma'akev. It does not prevent me from fulfilling my mitzvah of bikurim. I still get a check plus that I have fulfilled the mitzvah of bikurim. Says the Gemara below, really? We have this famous statement of Reb Zera in a totally separate context, but they use this logic all over the place. Okay, let's see if we can do a quick summary of this. When you bring flour offering, you bring a mincha offering can be brought from flour of 60 isarim. It's a measurement of 60, and you bring that in one vessel. Now, what happens if you want to bring 61 measurements? So that the Gemara says, well, you can't do that because only 60 fits, and you put 61, you can't mix it together. And you have to mix the flour with the oil. So therefore, you have to bring it into another vessel. Says the Gemara, so just bring it in that vessel and don't mix the oil and the flour together. Says Rabbi Zera, you can't do that. You have to bring something which is roi lebila. If it's roi lebila, if you're able to mix your flour and your oil together, then ein bila ma'akeves. Then the mixing of oil and flour is not going, even if you didn't mix, it's not going to prevent you from fulfilling your mitzvah of bringing a korban mincha. But it has to be kol haroi lebila. It has to be that you're able to mix the oil and the flour. If you bring 61 measurements, that Chazal established you're not able to mix. Therefore, even though it can fit into that vessel, so you have, one case of oil and flour where you didn't mix it, fulfilled your mitzvah. You have another case where you didn't mix and you have not fulfilled your mitzvah. What's the difference? It has to be roi lebila. Only then ain bila ma'akeves. But if it's ain or roi lebila, like 61 measurements, then the mixing will be ma'akev. So to here, you have to bring fruits that are roi, that are fitting to declare a declaration. These fruits might not be bikurim. So therefore, they might not. They have to be fitting to read this declaration. And since these bikurim we're not sure about, therefore the reading of bikurim is essential to these bikurim. One second. Right. But by bikurim, you have to make sure these are foods that are fitting to be read from. So since if you bring food that is fitting to be read from, then you have to read. So these foods, in the event that they are bikurim, then you have to read. You have to make your declaration of bikurim. So what does the Gemara mean that, right? The Gemara asked, maybe it's bikurim. If it's bikurim, you have to read. The Gemara says the declaration is not going to prevent you from fulfilling the mitzvah. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? Anything that's fitting to be read from, then you have to read. Any korban that's so these fruits, in the event that they are bikurim, then you have to make your declaration.